Suzanne, look, first of all, thanks for taking the phone call. Where are you and why are you there?
I'm in Farnham Road Hospital, Farnham, Guildford. And, well, I actually don't really know why I'm here, but I can only make an assumption. It's because of something I did. Maybe it was a little bit silly. But just to give you the background of it, a couple of months ago, my neighbour and I both started experiencing headaches and some lethargy and bits and pieces, and didn't feel quite right. And I'd gone out walking with a dog. This was just about 4 weeks ago now, which was after the headaches had started. And I'd noticed a massive new phone mast. Now, I knew 5G wasn't enabled because it wasn't showing a 5G or anything on the phone. But I spoke to 3 and I thought, well, I'll just check and, see whether, what's happening. And the manager there confirmed that it was indeed a new, larger capacity mast, but that 5G wasn't on yet. So, I know that it's not actually activated, but my concern was, well, is this what's causing the headache? Not quite sure. I then continued to do some further research into the 5G implications, which I'd already been aware of some of it, just, I kind of hadn't thought it was coming to England yet. So I found a bit more research and stuff, and then I decided to take that research to my GP so that they could then figure out, are there a lot of people getting additional headaches or symptoms, and to just give them a bit of information to be aware of my symptoms. And I also spoke to the fire service in Purley. And who else was it? So I spoke to the fire service, and the doctor basically didn't want to look at any of the evidence at all. So I got there, and instead of looking at the evidence, and I had a whole bag of it. I had my laptop with me, I had various papers with me, I had all the information, all the sites I wanted to show. She literally didn't want to look at it at all. She just came at me from the angle of, you've been under a lot of stress, and no, I haven't. I'm fine. And it was clear to me that I needed to get the hell out of it, because I got the impression that she just wanted to section me at the time. I had that horrible feeling.
Why did you think that at the time? Did she say something to give you?
She wasn't willing to look at any of the evidence, and then she started going down the road of, how are you feeling? You seem very, very stressed. Well, obviously I'm stressed because I'm coming to you with evidence of something that's potentially harmful, and I wanted them to listen, and she didn't want to know. So I just got a bad feeling about it, which was right, because later on that evening, I started getting withheld calls on my phone. And the next day, I'm literally just chilling out in the garden. My son's around with his girlfriend, making dinner. And there's about 6 or 7 police outside, 3 or 4 mental health professionals. No one had conducted any form of assessment with me. All I had done was my face-to-face thing with the doctor, trying to get her to look at the evidence that she wouldn't. So literally all of these people came in. The decision was already made that I was getting sectioned. There was no discussing it, because the mind had already been made up, and they were just basically arguing with me that you must be delusional and 5G and blah, 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 and you mentioned something about President Trump. Can't remember what I said, but they were basically just trying to make out that I was some nutter. And they asked me my opinions on Trump, funny enough, and I said, look, I'm not political, I don't vote, so I'm not going to get into that one with you. So it just seemed like they were trying to kind of put words in my mouth. I felt very uncomfortable. But yeah, that I just couldn't believe it, that literally from the minute of going to my doctor's, the day after I had 2 people knock at the door.
So the day after?
The door to.
So Suzanne, hang on.
Yeah, the day after 2 people knocked at the door, and I didn't answer it, and I just said,
right,
look at the information on 5G, I'm not letting you in, kind of thing. Had no idea they had any capacity to come back and then break the door down. So next day they come back, there's not the same people, but that's when there were all the police and a load of doctors. And then I was forcibly removed from my house and forcibly brought to this Farnham Road Hospital. Now, it's not even an open hospital. I've got bars on my windows.
There is bars on the windows?
Bars on my windows. Yeah, well, it's not proper bars. It's like a mesh, if you like, but you can't open the window. Anyway, you can't get out the window.
Let me get this timeline. Let me get this timeline right, because thanks for clarifying that, because in the video you said you saw the doctor, and then later on a couple of people came around, but you spoke to them through the window. The doctor was the first day, and then the people coming to the house was the next, because I think I saw the doctor, it might have been Thursday or Friday, and then the people came after that, and then literally it was yesterday that the police and everything came. So there were a total of 3 incidents. There was the reporting of it, then the next day there were the 2 people turned up that I didn't speak to, and then
yesterday, the final kind of sectioning and all the police and all of that stuff.
Tell me
and
this,
I can
Suzanne.
only assume they did that because I didn't speak with their mental health people apart from through the window.
That makes sense, because I was going to ask you, did the two people who turned up to have a chat with you identify themselves? Did they say, we're from?
Yeah, I knew who they were, but by then, because I'd suddenly thought, oh my God, I've just raised the whole 5G thing. Are they here to try and commit me, which they obviously were, or wanting to. I had a feeling in my head that I was safe in my own home and that you can't be committed in your own home, because that's something that I'd heard that obviously wasn't even true. And the next thing, the police are trying to break down the door, and I don't still even understand why they consider that I can be committed, because all that form says is that I need to be assessed and they think I've got a mental health problem and that they can keep me here for 28 days.
28 days. Let me just remind.
Yeah, they can keep me here for 28 days apparently under this section.
Let me remind our listeners listening to this. Suzanne Hall is on the line. I came across Suzanne today because I was tweeted a link to a video that Suzanne has made today from a mental health facility in Surrey. This is extraordinary stuff, this. I was immediately struck by how articulate and how lucid and how nice Suzanne sounded. And she's told this, frankly, incredibly disturbing story about not feeling well, about knowing there's a brand new mast in the area, speaking to the telecommunication provider who confirmed the mast was there. Suzanne went to her doctor and said, listen, I believe that this technology may be harmful and may be causing people to feel unwell. The doctor took the conversation in a different line. Suzanne felt it was sinister. She left. Later on, a couple of mental health workers turned up, wanted to converse with Suzanne, who didn't want to speak with them. And then later on the following day, the police and an ambulance and mental health workers come along and tell Suzanne that she has no option but to come with them where she's going to be assessed. And amazingly, she's speaking to me today from a mental health facility in Surrey. I just can't believe this, Suzanne. This is crazy.
It's unbelievable.
No pun intended.
And you know what? This place, the patients are lovely, but they're kind of dribbling,
Right.
They all think I work here. I'm making them coffee. They all think I'm a psychiatrist here. All the patients think I work here. And it is an extreme unit. There's a woman on 24-hour guard that's like throwing herself on the floor. Obviously I've got a lot of empathy and stuff. I'm not trying to take the piss here, but I don't think I should be here. I'm a woman that has had legitimate concerns over 5G. I've got a son who's 21 years old. If this is going to cause him to not be able to have kids, if it's going to cause him neurological problems, I don't give a shit if it's going to upset my doctor. I expected them as professional healthcare people to at least look at the research and the evidence, but she wouldn't even look at it. And that's why I got upset. And because I got upset, they're using that as she's unstable. No.
Well, you're honest now. You're very
Someone
honest.
you trust isn't doing anything about something.
You're very honest there. I mean, look, before we talk about whether you've been assessed yet, has anybody spoke to you, we'll talk about that in a second. But you're honest to say that you became a bit upset. I mean, listen, I'm an Irishman, Suzanne. I can lose it with the best of them. When I think somebody's not listening to me and I've got a point, I can get a bit highly strung. Might you have gone a little bit over? Yeah, go on.
I just said, well, you obviously don't give a shit. And then in my email, it said, you're not on the side of humanity. And if you are aware of this, then it's criminal. Right. And I still stick by that. And then actually, I think their reaction is because they do know. They do know. Now, if at some point all of this comes to fruition, I think those people should be prosecuted. Because if they're giving vaccines to children that are knowingly causing autism or whatever it is, I don't know for a fact that that's the case. I'm just basing it on information that we start to see. But if it is the case, they have a duty of care and they have a duty to preserve human life. And they are not doing that. I believe that our government are acting outside of the Constitution, and that's why I'm here.
And this is now. So you emailed the doctor later on. Obviously, you were a bit irate after you left. Fair enough.
With a email basically saying, "Look, here's the information. I can't believe that I got people sent around to harass me after coming to see you about." I sent her the stopthecrime.net site because I thought Deborah Tavares has done a good job of collating a lot of information in place. So I figured that was a good thing. And then I did a Dropbox of the recent appeal that's got all the great scientists and renowned scientists that know what they're talking about that have all signed this thing. And I sent that. Now, if they don't want to look at it and they just want to get me committed, what is that saying to you? It's saying that they don't give a shit about the problem.
I mean,
they don't give a shit about human life.
I'm taking you at face value, and I am taking you at face value because we've never met before. And like I said, I stand by what I said, articulate, lucid, obviously passionate about it. I mean, I am. I share your concerns about these things. I speak to people, not always activists. I often have academics from some of the most well-known institutions, educational institutions, who agree with you in terms of your concerns. This is outrageous. What has anybody seen you to assess you yet at this facility?
Well, I had an assessment earlier with the doctor because I said to her, look, what's the difference between conspiracy and mental health? And she couldn't. She obviously is clear, because even if the stuff I'd researched was wrong, let's take it as an example, it was fake news, whatever, that still doesn't make me insane. I still have a right to opinion, and I have a right to say what I think, and freedom of speech, and that is what's not being allowed. But as it happens, there's a lot of credence to the information, and if anything, it's the professional services that are acting in an insane manner by not taking it seriously and by not listening to people. But so my mum and dad are insane, and my sister is a recovering alcoholic who can't cope with any stress whatsoever. My son, I definitely don't want to put it onto. So basically, I'm trapped in here. My mum's on her way back from Spain.
Have you been able to speak to anybody else before you spoke with me?
I've been speaking to a few people who are aware of my plight because they're on the Facebook groups, probably those that have notified you, which has been quite good. There's been a chap called Lee who's been really helping me as well, saying that they're going to come down from Newcastle and help get me out of it.
Wow. I mean, the reason I asked that is because you obviously need somebody from a legal point of view.
Well,
you need help, right?
Now that they're saying they might let me out, it might be Friday, but the question is, do I need to wait till then? I just don't know. It looks like I might have no choice, because there's another option where you can go to kind of a tribunal thing, but that's 2 weeks. So if she's suggesting I might be out when she gets back on Friday, then it's better for me to just wait. But the point being, then what do I have to do after that? Am I going to have to start checking in with a home care team every week and tell them, no, I don't think 5G is a danger now, I'm all fine, and what am I, a clone with a smile on my face now? It's like, what?
We'll send you off to a re-education centre where you learn never again to have an opinion on anything.
Yeah. Well, thank God I didn't mention MK Ultra. And you know what? I literally had to not mention half the stuff. Oh my God, I just can't. It would be so good if we had a big cleanse of the swamp over here, wouldn't it? But at the end of the day, my concern is that this can happen to me, and I'm a professional woman who's worked for 20 years, project manager in a professional capacity. It can happen to anyone. It really can happen to anyone, and this shouldn't be allowed. It just shouldn't. All for a conspiracy.
Well, it's not all for a conspiracy. It's all because you've asked a question. Yes, you're asking questions. Listen, only this week I had a professor emeritus from Washington State University on this program saying that, wait for it, Suzanne, saying that when this is rolled out eventually, we're going to see on a massive scale infertility. Basically, nobody will be born. He reckons it's going to be the death of birth. And this is an academic, not a conspiracy theorist. He's an academic. Yeah. And I'm worried about it.
To add to that, I used to wear my BlackBerry around my waist for many, 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 many years, and I suffered a significant number of miscarriages, which I now believe could have been relating to that. Now, I don't know about other women. I don't want to start getting people worried and upset about this stuff, but it is an important thing to think about, because we don't know. Maybe at that time 3G was even causing a problem. We really don't know the true effects of this stuff, and we don't know how it's affecting fertility because we're not getting true statistics, because we're just not getting honesty from the government, and that's why there needs to be a significant change. There's not been
a single human health impact study done on this technology. This is just going to go ahead without any testing of it, without any looking at it, despite many men and women, again from academia, saying, listen, this is very dangerous and this should be properly, thoroughly researched before being applied. But they're just going to roll it out. And that's the way it is.
They don't care. And the point is, we don't even need faster than 4G at the moment. And why the hell do we want to get a shitload of ugly looking antennas putting up? It's going to look like all those solar wind things do. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to look hideous, and there's going to be no escape. They're also on the motorway just outside my house, just down the road from my house. It's like about a mile away. They are installing smart meters in motorways now. So you're going to have, you've got your Sky Q box, you might have one in each room, that's 4 lots of Wi-Fi, and your phones, that's another 4 lots. And then you've got your smart motorways, and you've got smart bloody everything, haven't you? So literally, and if this is all going to be thrown at us at 400 times the radiation we're currently getting, if it's 400 times, I think it was around there, then you can imagine the consequences.
You won't be able to get away from it, is what you're saying. And that's right, you won't be able to get away from it.
And they plan to put it everywhere. And that is the problem. And the thing is, we don't need it. Who was asking for it? Who needs it? I don't need it. Do you need 4G? Perfectly fine.
Perfectly quick, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is no need for it. Yeah.
And if anything, the current Wi-Fi, the current routers and stuff could be made better. They could be protected more for us to stop these harmful signals. There are ways to make these things safer, but they're not doing it.
My God, Suzanne.
So this is what needs to change. Now, I'm not an expert, but then there's a guy, I can't remember his name, Brian someone, Deborah Fitzgerald had put him on one of her documentaries, and he did state that they needed to conduct at least 15 years worth of tests, and they were told to do one lot of testing in 15 minutes and the other lot of testing in 10 minutes. So they got the right results, but obviously you're only doing it for 25 minutes. The phone wasn't put on somebody's ear, the phone was on a desk.
It wasn't on somebody's person. That's right, it wasn't in their
desk.
pocket.
And if you look at the small print, they'll always recommend, you should use your headset piece anyway. But most of us don't know that. We don't always have a headset to hand. And the worst thing is if you've got little babies that are playing on mum and dad's iPad.
It was nice of you to say earlier on that when you talked about your miscarriages, and look, I don't know what that's like, but when I say I'm sorry to hear that, I genuinely mean it. And you were right to say that, look, I can't prove one way or the other, but I'm going to say, if you are pregnant and you're listening to this program, or you do have very young children, don't have those phones anywhere near your body. Just don't.
No, not at all.
Simple as that.
Not at all. And it kind of defeats the point of the phone as well. But what I do always now as well is put your phone on Wi-Fi mode at night. Try to put it on Wi-Fi mode when you can. And apparently, if you have a number of cars in a phone, it's meant to be extremely dangerous as well. So that's another thing to think about. And to not use things like the GPS. But then we're getting away from the whole point of these phones. And actually, maybe we need to reconsider our use of them. Maybe there needs to be something, or we need to make sure we don't go past 4G and we actually look at the existing 4G and we make that safe. 5G, I just can't understand. Whoever's put this in is a psychopath, to be honest. Whoever designed this plan, whoever come up with the idea of it, they're a psychopath, because this is not what humans need. Why do you think the bees already are dying out? We know it. We can feel it. We're sensitive. We're sensitive creatures, and we're being literally attacked in all directions.
BBC,
with fluoride, with GMOs. And
BBC Nature presenter Chris Packham wrote only weeks ago in one of the broadsheet newspapers that he was in the New Forest this summer and there are no insects. Why is that? Why have insects disappeared? Why did I drive to Cornwall 5 weeks ago? I drove 7 hours down from Manchester. I got into Cornwall. I did not have to wash bugs off the windshield. Why?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. In your face. I cannot believe I'm speaking to you now. I'm not trying to oversell this. You are on Farnham Road in Surrey. You're in a mental health facility.
In a mental hospital.
Where you're being kept against your will.
They haven't lithiumed me up, but that'll be your next step. I mean, if they force medicine on me, then you won't get any coherence, and that's my absolute dread. Because I don't take any drugs or medication.
I don't think they can do that. I mean, later on they might ask you to take.
They can. Yeah, apparently they can.
When did you go in again? You went in last night, did you?
Yesterday. I mean, you know what? The funny thing is, the policewoman came up with me while I got just a couple of bits, and she knew that it was wrong. And I was like, is there anything she can do? She's like, I don't know. I said, nothing I can do. And literally, they knew it was wrong. Because I was like, this can't be legal. How can I do this?
Of course it's wrong.
Literally, I was perfectly sane. I mean, yes, I was upset and I was talking very quickly, like I always do. But it just, I just literally couldn't believe it. I felt sick. I didn't sleep a wink last night. I feel sick as a pig. I'm a type 2 diabetic and I have a very special diet because I don't want to take metformin. That makes you sicker. And so literally there's nothing for me to eat. I'm eating bananas. So they're going to maybe work on allowing me to go escorted out with a credit card at some point to buy some suitable food.
But you'll be escorted?
Yes. In case I run away.
I mean, you're not suicidal. You're obviously not suicidal.
Not at all.
Not at all, right? So who else could you be a danger to?
I've been passionate at trying to promote the information and awareness of things that I think are, not doing us any favours. Like, we all know that Monsanto just got sued. Was it 229 billion for the fact that the GMO food
over glyphosate? Yeah, that's right.
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So, if I'd have said to the doctor, "Oh my God, I don't want to eat food from Aldi that's got GMO" a year ago, what would I have been committed then, as well?
That's a great point.
It's silly. And then one of the doctors, when he was speaking, says, "Do you really think that the government are going to allow you to bust a part of these cell phone towers if they're dangerous, Suzanne?" And I said, "Well, what happened with smoking? happens with the tobacco industry. But I mean, literally, the guy that was trying to sex me was he was awful. He was just a patronising, condescending. I don't even want to say, but to me, I was under attack from all angles, and it was awful. It was bullying. It was harassment. It was a very scary, intimidating position to be in. You know.
I can't imagine it, and you have my genuine sympathies there. Is there anything at all? I mean, this will be going out on the radio in a couple of hours' time, but in the meantime, is there anything I can do for you? And, you know, is there anybody I can call? I mean, it's great that you have the phone there at least and you can chat, but is there anything I can do, or do you think there's anything any of our listeners might be able to do?
What I'd like to do is, I mean, I'm hoping I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to make too much of a fuss until I do. But what I'd like to do, I think we should be able to take them to court for what they've done. I think we need to put exposure on the other side. I think we need to put them under the limelight. How? I don't know. We need legal professions that understand the law. We need professions that understand our constitution, that can get back to our constitution. Because at the minute, I don't think there's any form of law.
Not when people can do what's been done to you. And the great thing is, of course, the correspondence that you sent to the doctor. It's all there. It's all on the record. So if there's nothing in that, in terms of if there's nothing that could be, that somebody could say, well, look, this lady is obviously unwell and we were worried about her self-harming. There's obviously nothing like that in the documentation.
Yeah, exactly.
So you might very well have a case.
I'm not going around, I'm not being aggressive, and if at the end of the day the cell towers go up, it's not that I'm, you know, what will I do? I'll just have to try and limit my access and just try and be more careful. I mean, God knows what any of us are going to do. But it's as if they seem to think, what do you think, I'm going to go around and start attacking people? Like, honestly, I'm not an aggressive person whatsoever, so it just doesn't make any sense. So to me, I just don't think they had any real reason. I think that the doctor was concerned because I think she knows. Now, another thing that was weird was when I first called up, I spoke to a receptionist that I've known for years, and I explained about this 5G, and she said, well, I know what you mean, but what can we do? So I thought, okay. I said, well, we need to change. We need to make a change. Her name was Maggie. Now, so this was on I think it was the Thursday or the Friday when I'd first gone. And then when I went to see the doctors on the Monday, her name was Sue Crispin, the manager of the practice. Maggie was like, she's really busy. She won't be able to see you. But I kind of said, look, I really need to see. I've got a load of information and evidence. Maggie's like, leave it with me. I'm like, I'm not leaving with you. I'm not leaving it with you.
Yeah, you want to give it to her personally.
And then I waited to speak to the doctor, who basically told me to bugger off. But the thing is, Maggie before that had been like, I know what you mean, but what can we do? But when I came to see her to speak to the doctor, I hadn't got an appointment, by the way. I just showed up very early at 8 o'clock in the morning because I was like, I need to speak to the doctor to show this information because I knew it was all three related and to the new mask and stuff. And Maggie's attitude was very, very different. And literally, Dr. Crispin hadn't wanted to see me. Now, if you think someone is having a mental breakdown, wouldn't you want the doctor to sit with them straight away? That didn't happen. They were trying to send me away. But I tried to insist to speak to the doctor, and then, as a result, have ended up here. So to me, it wasn't a welcome in. They didn't want the information. She wanted me to leave the evidence so they could probably throw it away.
Yeah, I mean, she's not here to defend herself either. I've got to point that out. And her actions, I don't agree with what has happened to you, and I share your worries and your concerns about this technology. But I'm also well aware that many doctors and many healthcare practitioners, they're not protecting anything. They just genuinely don't believe us. They don't. And she might have felt, and I'm sure she would argue, that she felt that she was acting in your best interest. Now, she wasn't, obviously, but maybe she felt she was, and she's not here to, to say otherwise. But it's terribly wrong for me to be speaking to you now on a Tuesday afternoon. Again, I go back to what I said earlier on. Lucid, articulate, obviously bright. I'm not patronising you by saying that. That's what I got from the video. And you've been very candid about your worries about this technology, the way you express them. You're forceful and you're determined to be listened to. Again, there's no problem with that whatsoever. For you to end up in there is an outrage, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. It's an outrage.
Well, I think the reason for it was because I mentioned the genocide plan in that email. Now, the reason I mentioned that was because Deborah Tavares, when she talks about the burning of Northern California and the directed energy weapons and the 5G, she mentioned Agenda 21, 2030 quite a lot.
And you mentioned this to the doctor, did you, Suzanne? You mentioned Agenda 2130.
When on the email that I sent, I wrote, I think I said something like the guise of climate action plan and Agenda 2130 and genocide. I think I'd mentioned those things in there because they were specific to the information I was linking to from Deborah Tavares. Now, they might have thought, oh, this is what she thinks, but I was more I'm not the one that's come up with Agenda 21 or the theories of what it means.
Do you know what, Suzanne?
Sharing,
Do you know what?
You know?
On that, this is really important. You're going to want to smack me in the face now, and you can if you want. I absolutely believe Agenda 2130 is a real thing. I've had
so do I, but
people
I
talking
can't
about.
say that while I'm in here, or I won't be let to get out.
Well, see, this is the thing, and this is why I wasn't. When I said I have sympathy of sorts with the doctor, I have more sympathy for the doctor now, even though you're right. It's a paradox, right? Because the doctor doesn't know anything about any of this. And when they hear it and they hear global genocide, they think it's barmy. And they think, wow. Now, that doesn't make her right, but I can forgive that because at least she's being genuine. Yeah. She thinks it's crazy. It isn't crazy, but she thinks it is.
I did put the hammer down. I think I shouldn't have done it all at once. I should have done it in breadcrumbs.
What do we say about two things? We talk about drinking and dialing, don't we? And then we talk about sending emails where we're very passionate. Maybe we should put it in drafts and wait for an hour and have a look at it again. But you didn't. You just sent it straight away. All right, fair enough. These things happen.
You know, the thing is, and this could be paranoia. It might not be. I've got the videos. I can send them to you. Maybe you can have a look and decide. But literally a couple of weeks ago, not even anything to do with the doctors because I hadn't liaised at that point. But I'd been posting a lot of stuff about 5G and kill frequencies and bits and pieces. Now, I'm living in quite a remote area. There was a military-style, one of these yellow and black helicopters, massive one, just going round and round my house. It was so loud, I was like, shit, like, why are they going round and round my house? Like they were looking through my windows. And I was thinking, oh, my God, I hope they're not here for me. And then at that point, I started thinking, oh, maybe I've been opening my mouth a bit much. But I'm about the good grace to shut it before I went to speak to the doctor. And now I'm here.
Well, I sympathise with you. Look, I've done the amount of times I've said something and then wished that I had just kept it for myself for a while. I've had £1 for every time, Suzanne. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for now. I'm going to put this on this afternoon's programme because our listeners are absolutely desperate. I did a YouTube live stream earlier where I was just promoting the show for today and who was coming on. Yeah. And I mentioned you in the live stream. And the comments just went crazy. You know, what's happening to this lady? Find out what's happening.
If there's any way you can send someone to get me out of it, that would be much appreciated. But I don't think it's going to happen because I think I've got through a lot of shit and tape that I'm going to have to jump through. But yeah, fingers crossed. At the start of the meeting, it's Suzanne Small, SMALL, by the way.
It's small, not Hall, right? Small.
It's small, yeah, not Hall. Small. But my legal name is Sands, which is why people didn't know that I was in here because I was using a different name when I came. So a bit of confusion on the name, but Small is the one I go by on Facebook.
And it's Suzanne Small, yeah. And if anybody wants to find Suzanne, you'll find her on Facebook. And I did mention.
Well, yeah, you'll find two accounts because funny enough, my first account I got hacked out of it after sending driving license, passport, and stuff to Facebook. Couldn't get my account back, and that's because I was posting a lot of stuff at that point too. So there's two Suzanne Smalls. The one with the hat on is the one that I've got access to.
The one where you're wearing a hat, okay.
Yeah, I know. And see, funny because I could never get my account back from Facebook, even though I sent all my evidence. So that in itself is why didn't you give my account back? Because I was doing activism stuff.
I tell you what, I'm sorry you're in there, and you think you're going to have to be there till Friday at the earliest.
Well, that's what they're saying. But to be honest, if the other doctor that was the one that came to section me gets back on the scene, he wanted to keep me here, and I'm just concerned as to is there something untoward going on? And are they going to try and keep me here and start stuffing me with lithium, or am I indeed going to get out Friday? At the minute, that's what I've been told, but I feel quite afraid because I certainly don't want any doping whatsoever, because the people here are not in a good way,
Right.
At all.
You've got, because I rang you from my mobile phone earlier on, so you've got that, so save that, and when you can, when there's an update, let me know when there's an update when you hear something, and I'll. Do the best I can to get that out there. We've got a very big audience in this country and elsewhere.
No, sounds good. And can you send? I know you've got me on Messenger now. Would you be able to send me a link to your show and information?
Absolutely.
I had some nice messages from Aslan's Army as well today. And funny thing is, I've been watching a lot of Aslan's Army. I mean, I watch Patriot Soapbox. I've been looking at all the Red Pill guys and stuff like that. So whilst I don't participate actively with these groups, I watch them. I'm very much loving them, and then I do my own little bit to try and help on my side and. Never expected to get locked up because of it. But you live and learn.
You're good mood. Well, do you know what? You're
being sectioned now.
Being sectioned. I mean, you're there, and your humour and your good mood is, I suppose, testament to your character. Like I said, I've only met you today. Look after yourself in there. Don't be, look, I can't give you any advice, and nor should I. But you sound upbeat and you sound positive. Just be yourself when you're speaking with people.
Yeah.
And don't worry
Yeah,
about
that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm actually trying to have just chat with the patients and stuff, and help out some of the other patients in here, because there's some quite vulnerable people. But it's quite a nice experience, really. The worst thing for me about this whole experience is not just about the fact the doctor wouldn't listen for 5G, which makes me then concerned for everyone's health for the future. In fact, my parents have had to come back my mum's had to come back from Spain on her own and leave my dad there with a dog, and it's my mum and dad both for their birthdays this month. I've ruined my mum and dad's birthdays, and they're having to haul back to England because of this, and it's such a shame. It's a real travesty,
When you need them around you,
and they can't just get a flight.
When you need them around you, and I'm sure they'll be absolutely outraged. And like you said, there may be legal remedies available to you when this is all settled. You might have, a very good case, because it's essentially, there's there's so many issues there. Habeas corpus being one, of course. I mean, this idea that they can just because of opinions you have, because of questions, however strongly you might have expressed that, but for them to say, oh, we think we need to bring you in for observation, and the fact that they can do it, it's very sinister. It's sinister in the extreme.
And at one point, the guy had said, well, look, we've got the options of bringing you into hospital or having your home care team come every day. So I said, I'll have the home care team every day. He goes off, oh, no, we've decided we should bring you into hospital. The guy was just an idiot. And then trying to say, well, I'm wrong. And I said, what's to tell, how do you know that what you're reading is any more true than what I'm reading? It's just a difference of opinion. It doesn't qualify whether someone is mental or not. It really doesn't. The insanity is more put to a doctor that doesn't want to look at evidence where you can see someone is at risk from a 5G cell tower. That to me is more insane than me raising it. They also said, why didn't you speak to your MP? Why did you call your doctor? I wouldn't have done that. So it's as if I made the wrong judgment call. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. If my doctor's the one that you go to if you have a headache, they're the ones that are going to be the first line of if these 5G towers are making people sick, because people go to doctors when they're sick. They don't call their MP. So none of it was making any sense. Plus, I don't like Theresa May anyhow, and I haven't voted for it because it's all been corrupt. It's only now I'm hoping that we're going to get a party that we can actually trust. But God knows, because how deep is the deep state? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, look, keep in touch with me through my mobile number. Thanks for taking the call today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. And I hope, if anything, this is going to bring some, highlighting to what we're trying to bring people, their awareness up on. So
I've never seen anything like it, Suzanne. I mean, what I'm going to do now when I get off the phone with you, before I play this on the live show this evening, I'm going to put it on YouTube even before I do the live show, and I'm going to start putting it out all over Twitter and get my friend to put it on Facebook, because I'm not personally on Facebook anymore. I gave up with it. I got fed up with it months ago. Got fed up with being banned from it. So I said, well, to hell with that. You know what I mean? Like yourself. So I'm not on there. Keep your spirits up. I'm glad that you're in touch with your son and your friends. Thank God you have that mobile, and thank God your family are coming back to support you there. But it's an outrage.
And thank you for having me.
Listen, anytime. Keep us informed, and send us a text when there's anything. And of course, we'll have you back on again when this is over, all right?
Sounds good.
Legend. Mind yourself. Thanks, Suzanne. Bye for now, Suzanne.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.